Hello everyone, and welcome back to Tech of a Tea. I'm, as always, your host, Brody Robertson, and today we have someone who I've been wanting to bring onto the show for quite a while now, since the Library Foundation scandal a few months back. Welcome to the show, TravCrypto, but that's not the topic for today. We can leave that in the past. Maybe we'll get to it at some point, but for now, that's not the point.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
And there is a lot of lag, and there's nothing I can do about it. That's just a problem with you're in, it was Texas, you said.
Texas, yep. So we have a whole ocean between us.
Plus, my connection's not great, and I don't know if your connection's great either. What are you rocking?
Probably not.
See, I could deal with the delay between the me hearing you, or me seeing your video feed and your audio feed, and me responding to it. The problem is everything on your side is desynced as well. So my suggestion this time is anyone who can't deal with it, just go listen to the audio version. The audio version should be tolerable. I hope.
Cool.
God, it's gonna be hard to respond. I can't even look at your camera. I'm just gonna put something in front of your face. Okay. Actually, that's probably a bad idea. Anyway. Well, the topic for today is you've been tweeting a lot. Actually, we'll see if we can find... I should be able to find it on your Twitter. It's the only thing you ever talk about. You've been talking a lot about crypto UBI. What is it? TravCrypto 1. There we go. Can I find anything? The one day you're not talking about it all the time.
Yeah, so I guess how I kind of got started with UBI, right, is I was looking at, I've been involved with nonprofits in the past, right? So me and a friend, we did a nonprofit in the past, long story short, where we went to a different city in the United States every week and did video production work and marketing for different nonprofits, right? And so I kind of got, more interested in the nonprofit space, and I started seeing some of the difficulties that people around the world were dealing with, right? And also, I'm very interested in personal finance and economics and things like this. And so I see this huge wealth disparity between some of the people that are being helped by nonprofits, and then I see very wealthy, successful entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And I try to I started thinking, why is there this huge wealth disparity? And that's kind of what got me interested in the first place.
So before we get way too into the details, for the people who somehow don't know what UBI actually means at this point, give people a basic rundown of how you interpret it.
Yeah, so the 3 letters UBI stands for Universal Basic Income. And you can basically break it down just like that. It's universal. It should be offered to everybody in the whole world. Basic, or the proponents of this say so, right?
Mm-hmm.
Basic would mean it's a regular, basic, consistent, and then income is obviously money, right?
Mm-hmm.
Some form of income and currency. So it's a universal basic income offered to everybody. And proponents of it, it's actually been around a lot longer than you think. There's actually or most people would think, there's been some big time proponents in past history, and it's a super interesting subject.
So most people, when they hear UBI who know about it, typically get scared away very, very quickly, because they will think government controlled, take all your money basically. But that's not the sort of UBI you're talking about here.
Correct. So I just mentioned what UBI is, right? And it's a universal basic income. And me, myself, being very much a libertarian, if you will, and kind of against big government and things like that. I also, initially, when I heard about UBI, I thought, oh, that's crazy. It sounds like, what the Roman Empire did back in the day, right? They did bread and circus. They handed out all kinds of free things to appease the people in a time that was really, really bad. So It initially kind of turned me away, the whole universal basic income idea, but then the path of UBI and crypto kind of collided.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when I really got interested in what is called crypto UBI. So it's distributing universal basic income through the technology that blockchain offers.
Mm-hmm. Because I can definitely see why a lot of people wouldn't be in favor of a government-controlled solution. One, because obviously that's going to massively increase your taxes, and since starting a business, I've come to agree that yes, taxation is theft.
Agreed.
And also, if you rely on the government to do it, then you have to trust that the government is going to, I guess, how would be the best way to describe it? Distribute it in a fair way, and then distribute it in a consistent way as well, without, favoring certain groups of the society.
So let's talk about that for a second, right? A perfect example, at least here in the United States, something that I thought was absolutely crazy and I thought would never happen was the stimulus check that we received this summer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So me growing up in a conservative household, and I have a lot of friends and family members who would totally be against UBI, let's say. So anyways, but my point is that this huge stimulus check from the US government, that was just like so shocking to some people. They never thought that that would happen. And so besides that point, the actual distribution of that stimulus check was a nightmare.
Yeah.
So many people struggled with that. So many people didn't receive it. So many people got delays. Some people received the wrong amounts and all this stuff, all these issues. And obviously, if we had a centralized version of UBI, like a government implemented version, what we would see is this centralized authority distributing income that people really need. People need to eat and pay their rent and things like this, basic needs. It could essentially just be, they could pick and choose who they want to give it to. And that is definitely a major, major issue.
The US is a weird one with this as well, because that stimulus check, was that just a one-time payment? Because I know there was...
It was a one time.
Because I know it was supposed to be like a recurring thing or something. I know I've heard different people say different things about it.
Yeah, so that's another thing. That's just goes back to the media, but there's been all kinds of confusion with this, because at first it was like, will it be passed? Oh, it is passed. Some people got it. Some people didn't get it. There's going to be a second round. There isn't going to be a second round. So there's been so much confusion in the media and just the general public. So it was a one-time thing, and it's not a regularly distributed basic income, which, political proponents, like let's say Andrew Yang here in the US, he's a proponent of a regular basic income. But I do see an issue. While I am a proponent of the idea of a UBI, I don't think that the best way or a good way at all. I think it's actually very terrifying for a government to distribute a UBI. I think that could lead to all kinds of problems.
Well, yeah, if we look at it from an Australian perspective, Australia is a very, very different country when it comes to welfare programs to the US, because we've got a very similar system to the UK with our healthcare system. It's just as slow as well. It's a good idea to have if your country can afford it, but it is incredibly slow, and there are serious problems with it. But when it comes to the, I guess, government, it's not a UBI system per se. There are requirements for it. But when it comes to our welfare programs, it's sort of an unthinkable position in Australia to be like, we're going to remove those. Some politicians like, we're going to increase it by $50, we're going to decrease it by $50, but removing it entirely is sort of an unthinkable position here. During COVID, the two main programs that got boosted up were Job Keeper and Job Seeker, which are pretty self-explanatory in their names. Job Seeker was not really going to be used that much because no one's hiring. And that was sort of one of the requirements, actually applying for jobs. But people who had JobKeeper, that went through the business they were working for, and that also had some other problems there, because then you had a second layer of bureaucracy where some businesses weren't paying the employees JobKeeper, or they were taking a cut off of the top of that, like a bigger cut than they should have been. It's just sort of a mess when you have layers and layers of bureaucracy trying to manage these solutions. That's the point I was trying to get at there. The more bureaucracy you have in a system like that, the more chances there are for corruption, and the more chances there are for mismanagement, and just it's gonna be an absolute mess, basically.
It's a valid point. It's a valid point, and we saw a similar situation here in the U.S. to where there was this, on top of that $1,200 stimulus check that was distributed, there was a $600 per month stimulus. Yep. And a lot of, like, let's say minimum wage workers here in the US, they were actually making more money.
That was the case here as well.
And they would at their job.
Yeah, a lot of...
And it's just like, and people were blaming them. People were blaming these workers. Hey, you know, that's not right. That's so wrong. They should go back to their job. But honestly, any person, for their own livelihood and for their family, they're going to take whatever position that they can be rewarded with the most amount of money. So it's like the incentives were all wrong.
Yeah, the exact same thing happened here. There, for a lot of places, you could either choose to go back to work or continue staying on JobKeeper. And a lot of people like, well, I get paid more, so like I work at like what, a supermarket. I work at
self-explanatory.
Like, yeah, if I'm gonna make more, like most people are probably not thinking about it in the long run. Like, this is going to be damaging on the country's economy. They're looking at, okay, I have bills today. How do I pay the bills right now?
Yeah, and it's an issue, and these people are thinking, you know, what's best for me, what's best for my family, and the incentive is there, and there's just so much bureaucracy when it comes to changing that incentive. It's a bad thing.
Mm-hmm. So let's move on from that and talk a bit about one of the projects.
Now that we said all the reasons why UBI is horrible, yeah, right?
After we did all that, let's talk about why if you take the bureaucracy out of it, there might be something there. So one of the projects you've been talking about has been, at least I think it's the biggest one you've been talking about so far, because there's two main ones you've been focusing on. That's been Good Dollar and Good Dollar and Adena. Are the dogs gonna be quiet, or do you want to do something about them?
I hope.
I can entertain people for 2 minutes if you want to do something.
I'll make an attempt. Yes. Okay, cool. I'll be right back.
Okay, cool. So Good Dollar is this one right here that I was showing on the screen just before. So this describes itself as, I'll put it on this screen so I can look at the camera. The world's first people-powered basic income. Good Dollar is a digital coin and wallet that focuses... wait, I cannot read... Look, okay, I've said this before. I don't know if I've said this on the podcast. I know one language and I can't speak it. Good Dollar is a digital coin and wallet that allows you to receive free basic income with real monetary value straight to your phone. So, I'm honestly not a fan of crypto solutions that only have a mobile app. I don't know if you can log into this through the website. If I make this bigger, can I see? Maybe there's a web portal as well, but I really don't like phone-only solutions. Is he back? Oh, they're not in yet. Okay.
Sorry about that.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, so the attempt has been made. Let's see if it works. I'm currently house sitting / dog sitting for some friends in Austin, Texas. So, but yeah, two of the projects that I've been talking about. Let's see, what have you seen on Twitter? Let's hear from your end.
Well, I think the thing that made me start paying attention was when you had that very, very long Twitter thread with Arias. Just going back and forth about why UBI is like he was saying that it's going to basically destroy everyone's morale and make no one work. And then you're on the obviously the being for the UBI side. I haven't looked too much into it myself. I did briefly check out Good Dollar's website. Do they just the one thing? This is not anything to do with the project itself. Do they just have a mobile app?
They actually there is not a mobile app currently.
Okay,
It's just a web. It's a web app, but
Ah.
obviously you can use it on desktop or mobile.
Okay, because the way it read on the website was okay. I see it. Yeah, the way it read was that it was a mobile app. I just really don't like crypto projects that only have mobile apps.
Oh yeah, I actually use it every day from like the Brave browser that I use on my desktop. So, and then my girlfriend, she only ever uses it on her phone, so it works both ways.
Yeah.
But they do plan on releasing a mobile app soon.
Yeah. I like the
But
option of it, but it's just I have my desktop. I want to keep stuff on the desktop.
I agree.
The phone is for phone things.
Yeah. So yeah, back to me and Arius on Twitter. Basically, me and him have actually had a lot of good conversations in the past regarding economics, and we typically talk about things like scarcity and gold and Bitcoin and things like this. So I guess when I started talking about UBI, he was kind of like, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, what's happening?" And basically, he saw it as the UBI we just spoke of.
Yes.
He saw it. He thought I was mentioning it as a government issued UBI. I'm actually not a proponent of that. I think it can lead to a lot of bad things, like we mentioned before. Let's look at some of the history of the Roman government, and you can see there's a lot of issues with that. And just back to privacy and security, right? Like as individuals, we don't want to rely on a government to supply us with our source of income. That's a problem. That can lead to a lot of problems. I basically told him on Twitter I'm a proponent of crypto UBI. So UBI that's distributed through blockchain technology. And two of the projects, I guess, that I've talked about a lot on Twitter, as you mentioned, are Good Dollar and Idina. So, Good Dollar, as you just mentioned, I'd like to hear what was your kind of perspective or take on Good Dollar from like as an outsider?
Honestly, I think it's an interesting approach. Has this okay? One thing I've been curious about has all of these crypto UBI projects been around for a while, or have they all just suddenly popped up now, or do they just like gain popularity because a lot of people are out of work? Like that's something I wasn't sure about, whether they're all just here because of COVID or gaining popularity because of COVID.
That's an absolutely great question. So just a second, I'll tell you my little story on how I even got interested at all in crypto UBI. But
I do want to talk to you about that
question,
as well,
to answer your question directly, basically these projects, a lot of them like Dina and Good Dollar, and you may have seen a project called Circles. There's Baza Foundation. There's Pi Network. There's quite a few of these crypto UBI projects, right? And I would, as a general overlying statement, I would say most of them are new within the past 3 years.
Okay.
So probably the oldest one is from 2017 at the latest. So they're relatively new. The interesting thing that I've seen in the past, probably, well, this year, really, this year in 2020, we've seen DeFi. If you're interested in cryptocurrency, you've seen DeFi, you've seen NFTs kind of take off, but also crypto UBI, the whole crypto UBI space in 2020 kind of took off. And I think that's because of all the issues that we've been seeing around the world with COVID-19. We've been seeing a lot of different issues around the world, and there's a lot of proponents that say, an equally distributed crypto UBI could solve a lot of these issues without bureaucracy. So that's how we've seen a major increase recently.
The reason I bring up the question is I don't know much about these projects, but my concern was that if they had suddenly popped up because of COVID, there is a chance that some of them are trying to take advantage of people being worried about what's happening right now. But yeah, if they've been around, like if some of them have been around for longer, like I can get why they'd suddenly become popular, but I would just be worried about the fact that any of the new ones could be a little bit sketchy potentially. I'm not saying they are, I don't know anything about them, but it's certainly a worry that when there's a world pandemic, you suddenly have all of these platforms that show up saying, we're going to give you free money.
Oh, that's great that you mentioned that, because it's always something you have to consider, not only in finance, but specifically in the crypto space. Uh, any project, you always have to look at what are their incentives, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have to look at things like team, the pre-mine of a cryptocurrency, how much they control, things like this, because if the wrong incentive structure is in place, it can obviously lead to issues down the road.
Yeah. Yeah, I've just got your Twitter thread up right now. I didn't realize it kept going on longer than I kept reading it for. Jeez, okay. Oh, okay, it ends there. Yeah, I did also see that you wanted to have a talk with Arius about UBI at some point. I don't know if that's happened or not. It's happened offline or anything.
Come up, add him to this call right now. He's a guest star, actually. He's joining right now. No. Yeah, it would be an interesting conversation to have with him, like I said, because I know he's so against government issued UBI.
Mm-hmm.
I'm also against that, and I think it'd be interesting to kind of have a little debate between me and him.
Yeah.
So maybe you'll see that soon enough.
Yeah, that I definitely do want to see it. That does sound like an interesting talk for sure. Because I can definitely.
So
yes.
Go ahead. Sorry, delay.
No,
Go ahead.
We're gonna have to deal with that the entire time. I can understand from his perspective why he would be against it, knowing all of the stuff he knows about the fall of the Roman Empire. But I would like to see what his take on a decentralized solution actually would be, because yeah, the problems that he brought up, most of them related to I guess, a centralized solution, but the problem of giving people free money still does exist, where you sort of mess with the incentive to work at that point. I think that's a problem that no matter how you end up doing the UBI solution, whether it's through through government handouts or through some sort of crypto project, you still need to worry about whether people, I guess, will still take the effort to actually go and do something productive with their time.
That is a great argument, and I totally see what you mean. I think a lot of proponents for UBI would kind of argue the point that UBI isn't supposed to be a total replacement for somebody's income, but rather a small stipend, like a ground floor for people to stand up from. That's a phrase that's quoted a lot in the space, because I totally agree with you. It's kind of what we mentioned earlier, right? If I'm a minimum wage worker and all of a sudden someone says, hey, here's this crypto UBI called UBI coin. You can just sign up here and you'll make the same amount of money as you do going to work, and you're good. Like, you don't have to work anymore. Obviously, that takes away the incentive for people to work. And I think a lot of proponents for UBI, like I said, would tell you that this is supposed to be like a worst case scenario, solving basic needs for people. If they come across, one statistic is like over 50% of Americans, this is just in the US, but over 50% of Americans couldn't afford an unexpected $400 bill.
Yeah, what's the
so that's
I've seen the number before, but what do you remember what the number is for, like how much the average American has in their savings? Because it's some really low amount.
Oh, it's got to be around that amount, right? It's got to be around like the 400, because if they can't cover a $400 unexpected bill,
I feel like
yeah, I totally see your point.
I think the number is like 100 or 150 or something like that. That sounds right to me, but I could be mistaken.
Yeah, and so mainly we see this huge wealth inequality gap, especially here in the US, but all throughout the globe, especially in countries that, there's over 1 billion people earning less than $1 a day in the world. So that's another fun stat. Not fun. It's an interesting statistic that's really unfortunate. And so that's like some of the people that UBI could benefit, right? People that don't have access to banks. It would be banking the unbanked. There's some of these developing countries to where, yes, they make less than $1 a day, but 75% of the population has access to a cell phone. So there's obviously implementations there that can be done where this peer-to-peer UBI can be created. That's what really interests me.
Yeah, good that you brought that up, because that was something I did want to mention. A lot of people, they are very stuck in thinking in this, like in an Australian context or a US context or a UK context, but there are far more countries in the world than just those, and some of them, like the average income is nowhere near as high as it is in any of these countries, because there is nobody in the US who is actually below the world poverty line unless they literally don't have an income. Everyone with a job in the US is in the 1% of the world.
Absolutely. And so, yeah, poverty here in the US isn't nearly the same as poverty somewhere in Africa, per se. Here's like situations where in developing countries, could be a crypto UBI created to where, to somebody like me or you or someone in a developed country that maybe has a reasonable income, let's just use the example of 25 cents, a quarter USD, for example. That's not a big deal to me. Like it's almost not worth my time to claim that basic income every day. So that's when we have a situation called proof of need, as it's been called, like in the Good Dollar Project that's been mentioned. And proof of need basically is the thought that somebody like me or you might not need an extra 25 cents, right?
Well, for me, it'd be like 40 cents because the Australian dollar is garbage.
Exactly. For you, it might be worth it. No, but that value, right? We might not see too much incentive go out of our way, even if it's only a minute, even if it's only a short amount of time. It might not be worth our time to do that. Whereas someone in a developing country, let's just say $1 a day. That's how much their income is. 25 cents. That's a 25% increase in income. That's huge. So that's kind of like the use cases that I'm very, very interested in. And yeah, and I love that it's at this intersection of crypto UBI or crypto and UBI. Yeah, so I guess I wanted to tell you a little bit about how I got interested in the idea of crypto UBI in the start.
Okay, cool, because the next topic I want to get into is going to be a big one. That a lot of people have very, very strong opinions on, and that's automation. So we can save that one for just a bit, because that one, I think it's going to take a while.
Absolutely. So without going too into detail, I wanted to say this specifically for the people who are watching that are interested in cryptocurrency, right? But aren't interested in, let's say, UBI. Okay. So here's how I got interested. I was interested in blockchains like Bitcoin and Ethereum, right? Bitcoin with its proof of work protocol. Proof of work protocol. And Ethereum currently has a proof of work protocol, but they're trying to transition to a proof of stake protocol. That all being said, both of these protocols, if you think about it, and I'm no expert, but just from my analyzation of these protocols, both protocols lead to a concentration of wealth. Okay. And so simply explain, this is how I see it. Proof of work, Bitcoin. If you think about the people who are able to mine new Bitcoins on the blockchain, it's very centralized. It's only a select group of people nowadays. In the beginning of Bitcoin, anybody with a laptop or a PC could do it. Nowadays, in 2020, it's difficult. Somebody like you or me, or I won't say you because a little bit more technical than me, but most people, right? The average person
Do you know how much
couldn't mine
electricity costs
Bitcoin.
in Australia? I can't mine Bitcoin and make money. My state, okay, we'll go off topic for just a moment.
Okay.
My state
Oh,
has
that's okay.
literally the highest electricity prices in the world.
Oh,
No, I
no.
can't mine Bitcoin and make money. Maybe if I get an array of solar panels.
In its own way, that's centralized, right? If only certain people have access to the source of new Bitcoins,
Yeah.
that to me is centralization. Then you have proof of stake protocols, and proof of stake protocols are essentially whoever has the most of any given cryptocurrency can take that stake. It's similar to like a capital environment, right? Somebody in a capital economic system with a lot of money, it's easy for them to make more money versus someone without money, someone with no resources, no stake, they can't make money. So I started thinking about those two things and about some of the things I've learned in economics over the years. And I just realized how both those protocols lead to a centralization of wealth and power. And that's kind of what got me interested in trying to find a way to at least somewhat distribute that where more people can be involved in any given protocol.
Yeah. Well, I'm pretty sure people keep telling me this. I've never looked it up myself. I'm pretty sure that most of the Bitcoin mining that's done is done by banks.
Yeah, or these huge institutions, right? Like it's becoming the last fact that I saw was that the top four, if you look at a distribution of the mining pool, the total Bitcoin hash rate, the top four mining pools would have over 51% of the network hash rate.
Jeez.
Which, if you're familiar with a proof of work protocol, like that's when a 51% attack can be done, and
yes,
you could go into the technicalities of that, but it's very centralized.
Well, yeah, the problem with proof of work is the problem with proof of stake as well, but the problem with proof of work is as the project gets older, if it remains popular, it's going to become more centralized. Like, obviously, if you make new coins, Library is, for example, much easier to mine than Bitcoin is. And then some coin that comes out a couple of years from now and it's been out for a couple of days, that'll be much easier to mine than Library is 3 or 4 years from now. But you can't keep going with a single solution and have that not take up a very centralized approach.
Correct. And over time, like let's just use Library for it as an example, proof of work protocol. Over time, it'll get more and more difficult for people to get involved with mining that as well. So,
and obviously, proof of stake has the exact same problem where basically, like I really like proof of stake. It's a great way to make some extra money, but it also requires you to have some extra income to spend as well.
Money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it takes money to make money. We've heard that phrase, in finance and things in the past, but it really applies here in these protocols. Like you actually need wealth to create wealth with these protocols.
Yes.
So I don't want to get on that topic yet. If we can come back to that, talk a little bit about IDENA later on.
Yeah, we can definitely do that.
But yeah, what were you going to ask about automation?
Well, it's less of a ask about automation, and I kind of want to know where I can sort of guess where your what your stance is on this, and I think we have a very similar stance. And as someone with a software engineering background, I can tell you that your stance is probably completely correct. So,
okay, that's setting me up for failure right there. What if I just come out of nowhere and tell you the exact opposite thing?
Well, you say that we're just going to, I don't know, work alongside the machines, and everyone's always going to have work that can't be automated. Is that?
That's it. No. Yeah, I would imagine a lot of people, maybe have a similar stance to you and I, right? Because if you look at even over like just the past century, we've already seen so much automation in every industry. It's not like you know, a lot of people, like, the most recent thing is driverless vehicles, right? Driverless trucks, like semi drivers, or 30 million semi drivers, or whatever the number is. Such a large amount of workforce is going to be put out of jobs. But if we look at other industries, we've seen already the automation, right? We see it all the time. We see it when we go in a fast food restaurant, right? If you go into a fast food restaurant today, many of them have like these self-serve kiosks, right? Or I go into the grocery store and like, if and everyone says, oh, well, that's going to be, 10 years from now, that's going to be a while from now, we don't need to worry about that. But I guess the question I like to ask people is, do you remember when they were first talking about these self-checkout kiosks at the grocery store? Like, it was like a one-off thing. It was like, that it'll take forever for that to happen. Then it's like, like a year later, it's in every grocery store almost. Like, this stuff can happen very, very quickly.
Yeah, there's still a few places here where they don't have them, but that's usually like the little delis and stuff like that. Is deli an Australian word? I don't fucking know. The little, like, the little corner stores, basically. Those are basically the only places that don't have the self-serve checkouts. But any of the major supermarket chains, they have primarily still have humans, cashiers, but they've also got this big line of the self-serve as well, which also was sort of a problem during COVID, because then they had to constantly be wiping them down.
Yeah, it's like an issue in itself. But if you think about situations like that, you see like how much of work can be automated away so quickly. And some people, they really don't see the big picture on this, because they look at minimum wage or like your average worker, and they might say, well, they just need to go and get another job. They need to get a skilled labor job. But for a large group of people, that's not possible. Maybe they're working full-time at this job. Maybe it's been a career job for quite some time for them. And this automation leads to more and more of these jobs, more and more incomes being taken away from people. So it's a tough issue. And I don't know that I have like the exact answer. If I did, maybe I could be a politician. Probably not, because they usually have the wrong answers. But no, it's something that we need to be discussing now. I don't think that's something I am sure of. It's not an issue that we need to say, oh, that'll happen in 5 years, that'll happen. No, it can happen very, very quickly. So I think we need to talk about it now and start addressing it now.
Well, you did bring up trucking for just a bit there, and that's actually an interesting one, because that's one that will probably hold out for longer than people might expect. And this is something I was talking about on an earlier podcast where I had Uncle Bonehead on. That was a fun one. That was an annoying one to schedule, because he works all the time, because he actually is a trucker. When I brought up that problem, he said that it's much more likely that, at least for the meantime, the position of a truck driver is probably going to shift more into a mechanic position, because you can't simply just send out a truck on the road, because it could get bogged in some sort of like, you could be on a dirt road and it rains and then you get stuck there, or there's some sort of mechanical fault and the mechanic would need to repair it. So in that case, you could have a shift of role. But when it's something like, say, a factory line is obviously a really good example, where most factory lines are now, you have a very minimal staff. You have someone there that makes sure the machine is working. They push the button, it works. If it stops working, they fix it. But it's not like you have a line of people there that are actually assembling stuff. And if we look at another example where it hasn't hit anywhere near as much yet, in, say, the fast food industry, where it's actually it's the exact same thing as a mechanical assembly line, where you have this line of people who are all doing their individual jobs. You have one person putting meat on the grill, one person putting the bun in the thing, and then assembling the start, and then putting the meat on the burger, and then people handling the burgers to people. This is the exact same thing as a factory assembly line. The only reason it hasn't been automated yet is because it's a much more finicky job where you have to have much more precise actions, and this just hasn't really become cost efficient to do yet. But once running these machines drops below whatever the minimum wage is for your state, there's no reason for that not to replace the people in that position.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, talking about automation because fun fact, like I come from a family of farmers. Okay. So my family's been involved in the agricultural industry for 7 generations. So obviously, like here in the United States, we've seen 100 years ago to where a majority of the population worked in agriculture. And now modern day, only last stat I saw was like 2 to 3%. I could be off, but it's somewhere around that. 2 to 3% of the population now works in agriculture. So we've seen a lot of that automation in that industry, right? And I think the thing I'm most worried about is not necessarily the automation, because to me, as I guess millennial and somebody who supports new technology and things like this, I think automation can be a great thing. I think it can make us more productive. It can produce great results. It can increase safety. It can do a lot of things. But the place where we need to watch out is where the profits from, like, let's use Amazon for an example. Amazon can make more profit from automating a certain task, removing a laborer, a general laborer. When they remove that a human resource, right? When they remove that human resource, that's one job taken away. That's profit gained for the corporation of Amazon. So now you see a corporation or people that already have capital, people who are already wealthy, they are getting more capital, and then the average person is either losing a job or getting less capital. So I think that's really where we need to be cautious.
I think also with that, a lot of people with automation focus on the low skill tasks. The low skill tasks are the ones that people know can very obviously be automated. There's no reason, as I said, you can't automate a meat assembly line or anything like that. But it's not like automation is just hitting these positions. There's a lot of automation being used in the medical industry where for things like cancer detection with... It's like vibrating in my ear. I don't know why. So with things like cancer detection, we're getting to the point now where you can build artificial intelligence systems that can more easily detect, or more efficiently and more accurately detect the presence of cancer than a doctor could. And it happens in... God, it's too early in the morning. But the point I'm getting at here is that it's not just the low-skill tasks that are getting automated. So besides the fact that saying just upskill yourself isn't really possible for a lot of people, it's not like that's the only part that is going to be hit with automation. Oh, there's another good example. I've been seeing a lot of advertisements for tools to basically automatically generate a website, just drag and drop stuff, and it just makes the website magically for you. So obviously you have things like, what's the one that everyone talks about? The one that sponsored a ton of people?
Is it like an automatic website?
Yeah.
Like Wix?
Wix will work, yeah. But there's obviously tools like that, but there's also tools that try to focus more on the more technical developer side as well, where they're also becoming drag and drop. So it's even like high skill software engineering tasks where a lot of those jobs are going to basically become automated in some ways, where it obviously does make the job easier for the person who's doing it, but once that goes far enough, you can start eliminating extra software engineers at that point, and that's where you start seeing an even more serious problem. But I feel like for the most part, a lot of that automation is still a considerable length of time away. But as you've been saying, that's no reason to just leave it for a problem to deal with 10 years from now when no one has work. Deal with it now when some people don't have work.
Yeah. And I think it's something that we can be discussing now and looking at the reality of the matter rather than saying, oh no, we'll worry about it later on. You know, it's something that we can be having a conversation and kind of find what the best avenue will be as far as addressing this. So yeah, it's AI is an interesting thing. I'm glad you mentioned that because have you seen the IDENA project at all?
No, that one I haven't actually even looked at the website for. Let's look at it right now.
Okay, so I'll give you the brief rundown on what IDENA is, right? We talked about proof of work, Bitcoin, proof of stake, soon to be Ethereum, hopefully, maybe like 20 years from now. I'm just kidding. And then we have, so IDENA, their goal is to be proof of person. So it's essentially one person, one node. So you're wondering, well, how do they do that? Couldn't somebody just download 2 nodes on 2 different computers? Well, the whole idea is that you have to prove your unique humanity at a certain given time. It's called a validation ceremony. Right now, it happens about once every 15 days, but the goal is to have it happen about like once a month. And what you do is you go to this validation ceremony, prove that you're a human. Here's the cool part, right? And I know somebody like you will respect the privacy aspect of this. And so no KYC and no self-identification in any way, not even an email address, is required to participate in this validation ceremony. It's a lot to unpack.
Right. I want to know how it works.
Yeah, it just simply put, it's like I said, so the next one is on November 15th, right? And if you want to try it out, go for it. November 15th, okay? But what's going to happen is you've done a Google CAPTCHA before, right?
Sure, yes.
Click like all the little buses.
Yeah, and,
okay?
and work out if the 1 pixel of the bus is in the other square. Not sure about it, yes.
So it's actually easier than that. Easier than that. But it's more difficult and nearly impossible, or to this day, so far, it hasn't been possible for an AI to solve this. Okay? So what it is, it's 2 sets of 4 pictures. Okay? So this side has 4 pictures, boom, 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 boom. And then this side has 4 pictures. And you can probably see it on the website if you're looking right now. But it's called a flip. So as a human, it's easy for us to understand. We can look at the left side, the right side. Which one of these is a logical story? Okay, the water spilled, or the cat spilled the water. I cleaned the water up with a sponge. It's a logical story. Versus the other side doesn't make any sense, right? I just use that example because that's the example on the website.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right
now. So you go through, you got to do 6 of these in under 2 minutes. Do you think you could do that?
Probably, yeah. That makes...
So anyways, if you do this, if you pass the validation ceremony, that proves your identity as a unique person. There's no way for you to you couldn't do more than 2 of these at a time, because it all happens at the same time. And the reason I mentioned this IDENA project and why I think it's interesting is because it involves it solves the problem called a Sybil attack, right? A Sybil attack is like when you see on Twitter, like all these fake followers and they're supporting this certain cause, these companies can just go and buy these accounts. They're just botted accounts. And so this makes sure that each person only has one identity. So it's a very interesting project. It could help solve something like crypto UBI because each person will only have access to one account.
I'm still not sure why why you couldn't have multiple of these going at the same time. That part I'm not too sure about.
Okay, so that part you could try to do multiple at the same time. The problem is you wouldn't be able to humanly complete more than, okay, supposedly there's people that have done 2 at a time. It's not humanly possible to do 3 or more at a time.
Couldn't you map your mouse cursor? Like, you could write a very simple script to map your mouse cursor movements.
Here's the thing, they're totally random.
Right, okay.
That's the thing. So it's everybody that's a part of this network. Currently, there's about 4,500 unique people across the globe, which arguably makes it like the 8th most decentralized network in blockchain, which is pretty interesting because most people, I guarantee you, like 75% of the people that watch this probably have never heard of IDENA. So it'll be interesting. But anyways, it's very interesting because it's one person, one node, and therefore you could create like a democratic system per se. You could create like one of these decentralized autonomous organizations, and then every person would literally have one vote. And you wouldn't be able to buy the votes like with your capital. Each person would get their own individual vote.
Okay. It's
a lot to take it.
It is. I'd have to look more into it myself, but that does seem like an interesting approach to take. It seems like
it's interesting, and one of my favorite parts is that it's completely anonymous, right? You could do it without any kind of KYC or anything. So
that's a really interesting approach. I don't know whether this idea is going to take off for other projects, because obviously it's a very expensive ordeal to migrate a blockchain from one sort of proof method to another.
Absolutely.
And that's why a lot of people have brought up that problem with Library, because Library is a proof of work coin, and there's a website that I'll see if I can find it because it's kind of amusing. It tells you what the 51% attack for pretty much every single proof of work coin is.
Yeah.
Let's see if I can find
Is it for Library? You think we could maybe pull some money together and?
I think I can do it myself.
No, and here's the thing, Brody. Like, I like talking to people like you that are a little bit more of a realist, right? They look at things like this, look at potential problems, and they address it. I've had this same conversation with some people, and they say, "Don't do that. That would be horrible. Why would you ever do something like that?" And I'm thinking, I don't want to do something like that, but I want to address the issue or the possibility of it happening, right?
Yes. It's $115.
Yeah.
To be fair,
that's a problem. That's an issue.
It's better than BitTube. BitTube is $5.
Oh, we got it. Let's do it. Let's do it on BitTube. Yeah, I mean, there's obviously like some technical aspects to doing it, and it's a little bit more, I think, complicated than that. I'm no expert, but there is a bit of a security risk with that, right? When it comes to proof of work systems. So I think that's something, some people aren't aware of when it comes to proof of work, like 51% attacks, and it's definitely an interesting subject.
Obviously, the bigger the worker pool gets, the harder the attack gets, because Bitcoin is $476,000 to do the attack. But when you're talking about banks that have the majority of the mining power, it's like that is unreasonable to happen.
Absolutely, yeah, and you could get I know, I hate to say it, but you could get an institution,
Hmm.
right? You could get a bank or a government that is a bad actor.
Yes.
It's happened in the past, believe it or not. In past history, there's been bad institutions and it can happen. So I'm always a proponent of things that decentralize networks and really allow for user adoption, allow
Mhm.
for everyone to be involved on an equal level. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm really, really interested in.
Hmm. Well, okay, we've talked a lot about UBI and stuff, but we haven't really talked much about any specific project. We briefly mentioned Good Dollar, but why is Good Dollar something that people should be paying attention to? What makes Good Dollar special as
Absolutely.
a crypto UBI project?
So something that I see very, very special about Good Dollar, in my opinion, is that it's so user friendly,
Hmm.
right? My girlfriend, as an example, she's not a fan of cryptocurrency. She's not. She supports, me being interested in it and things like this. She'll listen to me rant and things like that. But as far as actually being involved in any given project, I've never really been able to get her on board.
Hmm.
Right? It's always been just slightly too. And I'm not much of a technical user, but I would say I'm slightly more technical than the average person.
Hmm.
So I've been able to, manage my way into some of these projects. But the cool thing about Good Dollar is like my girlfriend, she claims like the crypto UBI through Good Dollar every single day, and it's
Hmm.
no issue for her. So it's very, very simple to use, very user friendly. That's the same thing. But basically, that's what I find interesting about it. Literally anyone can get involved if you have like the understanding of like Venmo or Cash App, a simple app like that. You can be involved with the Good Dollar Project.
Hmm. Because I find that not just in the and it's sort of a problem with the entire crypto space. A lot of the crypto space, and Library has addressed this very recently, is very technical. Like you go somewhere like read.cash. I don't know if you've ever been to that website. Basically, it's a blog.
Have
Yeah, for anyone who doesn't know, it's a blogging. I'll bring it up. Um, it's a blogging website where you get paid in crypto for basically blogging. Um, the problem is the entire website is just covered in crypto prices and everything got like the amount of crypto it's made under it, and you've got all of these different cryptos you can get paid in, and the website's not loading. Okay, that's good. But it's just too much information on the screen. And Library was the same previously before Odyssey, where it'd be like, here's how much Library coin was made by the video, and all this other stuff that people generally don't care about. Oh, here we go. Now it's finally loaded. The problem with most people is they don't care about the crypto aspect. Like, hey, maybe, yeah, making some money is cool, but the crypto side of it is just like this. You're not going to get most people into a project like that, so you sort of have to give them something that's a bit cleaner and something that, not to say that you can't have the option there for the power users where you do have like, here is the advanced mode where you can see all of
exactly.
that stuff, but like if I say introduce my like I've got my stepdad actually watching stuff on Library recently, which is kind of cool.
Awesome.
He doesn't care at all about tech, but he watches my tech videos. I don't know why. Uh,
That's awesome.
but he thinks that at least now the service is pretty usable. He didn't really have too much of a problem with it before, but if you looked at some of the more complex ones, you can see how that sort of becomes an issue. And even websites where they have this like tokeny solution, like Twitch, for example, Twitch, they know how to show enough of their token that it sounds interesting without being like, here are all of these other things that you don't care about.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. The only problem, you go back to Library, it's nice that it is truly decentralized, right? That's the coolest part about the
Well,
whole project.
you can make some arguments right now because most of the nodes are owned by Library Inc.
Yeah, exactly. Let's say the most decentralized of
The
any
video solutions, yeah.
video solutions. So that's cool to see, and I totally agree. Like these user friendly designs are the key, right, to adoption. Because otherwise, you're just going to get the same people moving from one platform to another. You know, trying to I don't know, gamify the system and
Mhm.
like and pick up on these like first distribution of any given cryptocurrency.
Yeah.
And that's not good. That's not what we want. We want more people to adopt these platforms, so they have to be user friendly.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a I would say that's a fairly good take, I would say. Um so okay, what can people actually do with good dollar? Like it's all well and good to get this magic internet money, but what can you do with the magic internet money?
Great question. So yeah, good dollar right now. Back to the user friendliness and how you can use it. So, you know, you mentioned like for power users, like one example in crypto is like the wallet address, right?
Mhm.
That's very confusing for newcomers. Like they're like, what is this string of XYQRO01? You know, they're so confused. So it's cool. Like on Good Dollar, you could click send
Mhm.
and it creates a payment link. And I could just share that payment link with you. So, like right now, I could literally just on Good Dollar type in X amount of Good Dollars and I could send it to you through a payment link. So, that's
Mhm.
one cool thing as far as the user friendliness goes. But you can use it to send and receive dollar, right?
Mhm.
And also, one actionable example of that is currently there is a good dollar market Facebook group.
Mhm.
Okay, pretty interesting. Um, over 10,000 people are in that group,
11.2 right
and there's
now. I've got it up right now.
oh, you're looking at it
I
right now.
do.
Wow, you're ahead of the game. Yeah, so I guess over 11,000 people are in that group, and there's over 20,000 daily claimers that claim good dollars.
Mhm.
So that's very cool. And you can actually see it on the map in the Good Dollars web app. You can see from where in the world, if you click on statistics, you can see what countries have claimed good dollars each day.
Mhm.
So, anyways, back to this marketplace. To use good dollars, you could go on there and exchange, like, currently in the time of coronavirus, like, a lot of the things on there are digital goods and services, right? To like prevent one on one contact. It's cool. Like there's been people that have made music. There's people that have done yoga lessons. There's people that have, you know, and for example, I had a logo created from someone that was in the group. He
Mhm.
was in Sri Lanka and he said, "Hey, I create logos for businesses." And I'm like, "Hey, I'm interested." He told me the price. I sent him good dollars. The transaction took less than 2 seconds. It's literally instant. He sent me the logo and that was it. So it can be used as a peer-to-peer currency and it
Mhm.
operates on a side chain of Ethereum. So it's instant. And yeah, so far so good. It's been really cool to be a part of.
If it's an Ethereum coin, wouldn't I don't know enough about Ethereum. Wouldn't there be pretty terrible gas fees, or is that not a problem on the side chains?
So it operates on the Fuse sidechain, um, which interacts with Ethereum. So when you claim good dollars in your wallet, it's on the Fuse sidechain, right?
Mhm.
And if I were to send good dollars from my wallet to your wallet, um, if I wanted to purchase a good or service from you, it all happens on the Fuse sidechain, and Good Dollar actually provides you with the gas needed to send that transaction.
Okay.
So me personally, I've sent I think a little over 400 transactions actually,
Mhm.
just like messing around, interacting with people all throughout the world, and they've all been completely free and instant.
Okay.
So
Because yeah, that's I'm running the Brave browser right now, and I haven't been touching any of my bat because I look at how much it'll take to take the bat out of my wallet, and it will take half of it. I'm like,
yeah.
no, that can stay there.
No, don't touch it. I'm the same way. I'm the same way. Like if I get involved in like Ethereum projects, I'm like, I'm in this for the long haul because the gas fees are only going up from here.
Yep. That's sort of in like the next 20 years when Ethereum finally gets its shit together. That'd be nice. Honestly, if it doesn't, Dot's probably gonna take its position. Dot is getting a lot of traction recently.
Yeah, Dot is a totally interesting project. Honestly, any project that tries to compete with Ethereum for smart contracts, I mean, Dot is its own thing with like the parachain and all that. But other projects, like called, what am I thinking of? Charles Hoskinson, Cardano.
Yes.
Things like that are trying to compete with smart contracts. I say the more the merrier, right?
Yes.
The more competition, the better. Because if we get all this different competition, it's just going to improve just like any kind of economic system.
Yeah, whenever
I think it's very interesting.
Yeah, whenever you let the big dog just sit there and have no competition, things get boring. Like if you look at, I don't know how much you look at the the PC hardware space. It's been very yeah, okay. Up until very recently, the graphics card space has been very boring because Nvidia, they're the big dog, and AMD's just been sort of always one step behind them, and they've just been like, okay, we'll just give you 2% improvements because we don't need to do much. Our competitor's not doing anything. But now that AMD actually is releasing I hope a good card. You better not screw this up, AMD. Now they actually are doing something that looks like a really good card. Hopefully next year they'll have to be like, okay, we actually need to take a step forward now. And it's true in every single industry. If the big dog has no competitor, they have no reason to try to push forward. They're just going to do enough where people people just find a reason to upgrade, but not enough where they have to actually invest a lot of R&D.
Totally agree. I totally agree. And that goes for any industry. Like, competition is absolutely key. Otherwise, the big players will just like buy with whatever the minimum viable product they will always just get away with. So I think competition incentivizes better products for people. So very cool.
Yeah, so I've just been scrolling through the Good Dollar Marketplace, and I've noticed there's a lot of interesting stuff on here. Obviously, as you're saying, it is a lot of digital goods, but it's interesting to see what people are willing to actually offer. I see you've got a post on here about Beginner's Guide to Blockchain.
Yeah. So a lot of people are like trying to bootstrap the project. I'd say because people are really interested in the idea that this project will allow people across the world to claim a crypto UBI, like the whole proof of need concept. So you see a lot of people in this marketplace that are offering actually some valuable services, and they're almost doing it just to support the project, which is super cool to see, because you have like this community coming together offering these different I don't know, you might have seen there's an artist on there, and she created a work of art, like a sketch drawing, and it's absolutely beautiful. It's awesome. It's a great piece of art. And anybody that sees that, they'd say, wow, this is valuable. This is really great. And you look at the comments, and there's so many people interested in interacting with her and actually commissioning her to do a piece. So I think it's cool on both ends, because you have this community willing to kind of collaborate with other community members. And then you have these people offering services, like these valuable services, that are willing to like donate their efforts to the project. So it's really interesting.
And now we're going to take another approach to it. A couple of years when it gets more popular, then you're going to start having government starting to take notice of it. And this is where you're going to start seeing some interesting clashes, because this has started to happen with a lot of crypto projects already, where a lot of early people investing in Bitcoin, they were making a lot of money, and not declaring any of it. And the same is obviously going to be true here as well. But okay, I don't really know. It's certainly interesting for sure. But you've definitely got that concern where once the governments do start taking notice of it, they're going to try to be like, okay, now we want a bit of that pie as well. And that's something that is a worry that you do have to keep in mind.
Yeah, and as with any project in crypto with like a fixed supply cap, there's always going to be price speculation involved, right?
Mm-hmm.
So based on the usage or the utility of any given project, there's going to be speculation. And so as you see over time with a lot of these projects like Bitcoin, at the beginning you had somebody buying a pizza for, everybody's heard the story, 10,000 Bitcoin. And basically it's going to be interesting to see, like you said, because that goes for the whole crypto space, right?
Yes.
As to where these projects over time, they increase in value and the government wants a piece of that pie. So it's interesting how different projects go about addressing regulation and different bureaucratic things in the government. And like you said, like it can lead to issues in the future. So I think every project needs to be aware of that and needs to have a strategy for cooperating with regulation.
I know that US law is very confusing because you have like state laws you have to deal with as well with when it comes to any sort of taxes. But in Australia, the way it's treated is basically anything to do with crypto is just capital. So if you sell it and you make money, capital gains, lose money, a capital loss. Which means it's also going to be very, very complex to actually start, like, if governments do take notice of this, to actually do your taxes with this, because then you have to start calculating capital gains and capital loss on the trades that you're making. It would be nice one day, this is a hope that I would like to see eventually happen, that things like this don't get treated as a piece of property. They get treated as an actual currency. That would make it so much easier to handle, because then you just have to basically deal with it as a foreign currency, and that's considerably easier to do, at least in Australia.
Absolutely. I think, as you and I both know, governments do want a little piece of the pie, wherever that may be.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, that's what taxes are for, right?
Yeah, crypto taxes are exceedingly confusing. Because I have some staking this year as well, and God, I'm gonna tell you guys how confusing staking is in Australia. So, when you buy and sell crypto, it's treated as capital gains. That's fine. I can deal with that. But when you stake, it's treated as any of the coin you get back. It's treated as income. So you pay tax when you get it, at whatever the price is when you get it, and then when you sell it, you pay the difference between when you got it and when you sold it. So you have to basically pay the tax in these two different blocks. You pay just as much tax, but you pay it in two separate chunks. So even if you don't sell any of your stake, you still have to pay tax on it here.
Yeah, it's crazy. And that's why these platforms, right? That's why these exchanges and these centralized platforms, that's why they have KYC, right? There's practically no way around it. There's almost no way. Even with some blockchains, it's easy to trace using an explorer. There's ways to trace back what money went where and through who. So governments are getting smarter, and it's interesting. I mean, you have projects in the space like the privacy coins that may or may not be trying to get around these things, but it's going to be. We're seeing more and more, especially with institutions coming into crypto. We're seeing how regulators are like, whoa, slow down.
Yeah, if anything causes regulation to get real bad, it's going to be coins like Monero.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I'm just looking through some other stuff on the Good Dollar Marketplace, and I noticed some people aren't using it for the best things. Like someone's like, "Hey, I give $1 good to subscribe to my YouTube channel."
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that too, to where no, and I could argue against that. I've seen things to where people aren't providing much value to the community. They might
Mhm.
just go in and be like, "Click my referral link for $5 good," or
Mhm.
click, and kind of like this with the whole YouTube subscriber thing. But I guess what I could say about that is like there essentially is some value, right, to be exchanged of someone following you on a social media platform, and then maybe you have a certain amount of value that you want to offer in return. So yeah, I think it can be viewed as spammy, and it can be viewed as like maybe not the best method of acquiring a growth of followers, but I think there is some value to be traded there, possibly.
Well, I'm not saying they shouldn't be allowed to do it, but my point is that it is kind of spammy. If they want to do it, that's
Is
fine. If people want to give them money for it, that's fine. But it's not like everyone's like, here I'm an artist who can do this. Here I can do this. I can teach you English. I can teach you whatever language. I can teach you Bitcoin basics, things like that. There are people who are just trying to do, I guess, below the minimum amount of effort.
Absolutely. And yeah, and I think you'll see that with any free and open market, right?
Hmm.
Any open market, you're going to see people that just kind of try to game the system, get by on the minimal value offered to the group. And that's always going to be the case. That's just kind of like a law of humanity, I think, in
Hmm.
some sense. So to the people that do uh, contribute valuable goods and services, I think it's kind of like goal of the community to promote those people over the people not providing that value.
Well, yeah, I do notice that those people are the ones who are getting like 100+ comments and things like that. Like, there's this one in here. Actually, this person did. Why did this person not get many comments? This person did. I think it's a different person. Did charcoal art of a flower and Deadpool, and it's like really good art. Or is it
Yeah.
ink art? I don't know what it is. I'm not an artist. But it's like really good art, and yeah, it's not as much as the other charcoal one you saw, where it was like the charcoal portrait. But it's still like that seems to be one of the ones that is getting a bit more attention. Or this, as much as I don't like this, someone is doing one where they're talking about how drop shipping works. Something like that. Even though drop shipping has serious problems and getting involved in it is a good way to get yourself stuck in a pyramid scheme.
Absolutely.
There is value there for sure.
Yeah. And so, I mean, a thing we also have to kind of address is that, Facebook might not be the best platform for this all to be happening.
I
Right?
did see
Let's
people
be honest.
replying saying I would use. I think it was on Reddit or something. I would use this if it wasn't on Facebook.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think it's like it's not the absolute best platform for it to be happening on, but I think it's kind of seen as like a large portion of human beings in the world already are familiar with Facebook and use Facebook daily. It's a single domain that people are very familiar with.
Mm-hmm.
So it's just kind of like the whole bootstrapping community idea of, hey, this is something people are already used to, so let's give it a shot. And honestly, like in the past, 4 weeks, it's grown tremendously, like
Yeah.
over 11,000 people. But I think long term, it won't be the solution to a community driven marketplace. It's just like the first step.
Well, yeah, you want to get it on its own platform eventually, and however that ends up happening. Um, but there's no reason, especially when it's a very new project like this, to be like, I'm just going to start a website. Like, that doesn't make any sense because, as you said, there are these communities, and you can funnel people out of those communities because maybe there's a lot of people who had no idea about Good Dollar. They see it show up on their Facebook and like, what is this? And then sort of explore it a bit and come check it out. Where if you were just on a separate website, that isn't anywhere near as likely to happen.
It's the idea of like two different domains. I know plenty of people that like might see it on Facebook and be like, literally just click join group.
Mm-hmm.
And just like they might do what you just did. Oh, there's a charcoal painting. That's kind of cool. Oh, it's drop shipping. I don't like that. Or like they're just going to kind of look through the post. They might see some things they're interested in. and they might interact a little bit with the community. That's like the whole idea behind that group, I think. And then maybe long term, there might be a decentralized community marketplace solution.
Mhm.
And I think there's already some options out there, but I think it'll take like the community as a whole kind of discussing what would be the best option.
Mm. So, how long have you actually been using Good Dollar for?
So interesting and interesting enough, I found out about Good Dollar like late last year, let's say, right?
Mhm.
Late 2019, and it was just it wasn't a main net yet. It was just a demo.
Mhm.
So you could open the app, you could send and receive Good Dollars, but it was all just on a demo test network. The actual official launch, I want to say, was September 7th or so of this year. So I've just been kind of watching the project from a distance, being involved and interested in crypto UBI. And then when they launched on September 7th, I'm like, hey, I want to go check out this community because here is actually a project that I could be involved with and actually interact with other community members around the world and actually use, right?
Mhm.
So I joined the Telegram group and started talking to people in the community, and I've been involved the past months.
And you haven't been banned for reacting to anything.
Yeah. The green check mark is just fine in that Telegram group, so it's super cool.
So, how long
Man,
has this
gotta have.
marketplace been around for? Is that since September, or has it been around before that?
Oh, the marketplace has been around for a little over 3 weeks, 2 or 3 weeks. So
Wow. Okay, it's grown really
yeah.
quickly
So
then.
if you think about it, right? Like you have a user base of around 20,000 people from all over the world,
Mhm.
right? And all of a sudden, within a matter of 2 weeks, really, because the first week wasn't that many people, but in a matter of 2 weeks, over 11,000 people from a 20,000 person user base. That's pretty cool. Cool
That's
to see.
yeah. That's not many crypto projects can say they have that much engagement. But you can't. Okay, one thing that you can't be certain of is that everyone in the group is actually using Good Dollar. Like there might be some people who
I
are
totally agree. I
still
totally
checking it
agree.
out. Yeah.
Um, So actually, there's a little poll in there today that I made, asking people if they've bought or sold things with Good Dollar
Hmm.
yet, goods and services within the marketplace group on Facebook, and if they haven't done that yet. So, um, yeah, it's interesting to see the people that actually are using it as a marketplace versus just general discussion.
Hmm.
Um, Either way, it's there's obviously an interest in this space and crypto UBI as a whole.
Yes.
So it's cool to see like people from all over the world, and some people are like the most basic users, have never used cryptocurrency before in their entire life. They're using this project, so it's really interesting.
That is kind of cool because, yeah, as I said earlier, that's not something that a lot of crypto projects really see, especially early on. A lot of them focus very much on the technical side. Like Library is the same. For 3 years or so, it was basically unusable, and then eventually they got a nice interface, and now we're at where we are now. But it seems like Good Dollar's like, okay, we have what we need technically. We also need an interface where people can actually effectively use this.
Yeah, and it has to be something so easy. Like, for example, somebody on Twitter made a tweet. It said, "So easy, your grandma can do it," and they
Mhm.
literally showed a video of their grandma signing up with Good Dollar, like on a cell phone, and it was super easy and straightforward. Like, so when I see stuff like that, it's cool to see people not from the space, like not the most technical users,
Mhm.
getting involved because of the idea of the project and not being hindered by all these little technical aspects. Like they can get involved from day one. So
Yes.
that's really cool to see.
So let's see, what was it? So Good Dollar is the one that you're kind of putting the most effort into right now, yeah. Is that right?
So let me turn this light on real quick.
Too good.
I was using natural light. Um, so Dollar I'm focusing on right now just because of things I mentioned before, right? The easy use case
Mhm.
for anyone to be involved with. I love that my girlfriend's able to use it. That's so cool to me. Um, she can interact with it daily and interact with this marketplace. It obviously supports the whole idea of a crypto UBI, like a
Mhm.
basic income distributed through the blockchain. So I want to support any project that's behind that, right?
Mhm.
So one thing I like to focus on is are projects that already have utility.
Right.
So the first projects I ever heard about was called the Pi Network.
Mhm.
It's a similar it's not similar to Good Dollar in all these senses, but it is a crypto UBI project, right?
Mhm.
And so I want to support the space as a whole, support competition.
So,
The problem with things like projects is they don't have any utility yet. They're
mhm.
just an idea. You
Yes.
can't
Yes.
send and transact with the Pi currency.
Mhm.
So I wanted to be a part of something, a part of a community that I could contribute to where I can it actually already has utility. So that's what got me interested.
So, okay, I'm looking at Pi Network right now. Is this so you can't do much with it right now? It's just
Like you could go on there right now and claim Pi, right? You
right.
could claim Pi cryptocurrency. You couldn't send it to me, and you couldn't withdraw it to a wallet. You
So if
couldn't,
it is,
you it's
so,
one of those it's like
uh,
the clicker game, you know? Like I'm not trying to bash that project, okay?
mhm.
I like the idea. I obviously support crypto UBI, but what I'm trying to say is I wanted to hit the ground running. I
Yeah.
wanted to be a part of a project that already had utility that you could send and transact with. So that's why I was very interested in Good Dollar. And then Idina, that's the other one I obviously talk about a lot on Twitter, and that one's mainly I'm interested in the idea of like this crypto unique identity.
Mhm.
And I feel like there's so many implementations that can be done with that. Like I can't even imagine. Like what if we could vote on the blockchain?
Mm.
That would be amazing. With a unique identity and we could vote on the blockchain. It doesn't even have to be in regards to like government elections. I'm just talking about anything, right? Like what if we could run a simple organization to where each person had one vote? That
Mhm.
would be so cool.
So I'm looking at the Pi Network just now. So basically, it's mining on your phone or something. Is that?
See, that's a little misleading, right? It's not
Uh
actually
huh.
mining. It's a test net. The numbers going
Okay.
up, but your phone's not doing anything.
Okay. How does Good Dollar work then? How is that? Is that? Yeah.
Yeah, as far as blockchain go or the protocol level, Good Dollar operates on the Fuse sidechain
Mhm.
that I mentioned previously. And essentially, it's an Ethereum sidechain that is proof of work.
Okay, so it's proof of work.
Um,
Yeah.
not to yeah.
Okay. No, that makes sense. Well, the other one you mentioned was Circles. So why is Circles not the one that you decided to go with? Is that does that still have the same problems that Pi
Oh,
Network
you're hitting me
does?
with the tough questions. Oh, this is great. Circles. You know, I'm still discovering circles. To be totally, I'll be honest with you.
Okay.
Um, I've heard of circles. I've followed it for quite some time. I've read the white paper. I have a brief understanding of how it works.
Hmm.
Um, I do have like some personal questions that I've kind of interacted with the community. I haven't had like total clarity.
Yeah.
Um, Essentially, my understanding of how circles works. Are you familiar with it?
I. That's why you're here.
Okay. Yeah, great. So circles, this is just like my basic understanding. Like I said, I haven't done a ton of research.
Hmm.
Is like create this circle,
Hmm.
obviously, of connections and this network of people that you trust.
Hmm.
Like I could create me, my best friend, my girlfriend, another best friend, right?
Sure.
Let's just use a five as an example. And you create this circle of five people and you verify their identity.
Hmm.
And using that trust mechanism that's how crypto UBI is distributed. So then each of those 5 members receive a crypto coin that's specifically their currency. So like I would get Trav coin, you would get Brody coin. And then we could exchange those coins because we've already trusted each other, right?
Okay.
And that's kind of like my brief understanding of how Circles works. I guess to summarize my overall broad view on these crypto UBI projects, right? Is there has to be a method to verify unique identity.
Yes.
It's always going to be the crutch, right? Because otherwise, especially when you offer people free money, there's always going to be people who try to game the system. There will always be. And, I mean, you could argue with me, but
no, I'm completely in agreement.
I'm using you in the general sense. Some people would be like, "Oh, well, why would they do that?" But there's always going to be bad actors. So you have to find a way to verify that each unique person is receiving one set of UBI rather than multiple.
Yep. And any project that doesn't take that as a serious concern is a project that basically you should just be ignoring.
Exactly. I agree. So this is actually cool. Like the identity thing is actually something much bigger than this crypto UBI. You've seen decentralized autonomous organizations. You've seen like the whole Ethereum developer space. They're all trying to solve this issue in different ways. So it's something that I've been passionate about ever since I realized it was a problem, because it prevents, it's like a stepping stone, and it prevents a lot of technological solutions from happening. So I think if we can solve this identity solution, it would be really cool.
Well, if we move away from the the crypto space entirely, but still keep the blockchain there, right now, this is going to be up after it happens, but the US election is very soon. Like,
oh no,
very, very soon.
I gotta go.
I'm not going to talk about the election part. The point I'm getting at here is you have this problem where a lot of people are doing paper ballots, and they're not paper, mail-in ballots. That's the one I'm talking about. A lot of people are doing mail-in ballots.
I did.
Okay, yeah. And this is a very, very serious problem where it's basically impossible to work out.
I wanted to bring this up, but I'm glad you did.
Yeah, it's basically impossible to work out whether someone has voted once, if they're voting for someone else, because I don't know how complex their authorization or their authentication is with the paper, but I imagine it's just you sign it, maybe you do something else with a mail-in. I don't know.
So I can tell you exactly what it is because I just did it. So I received my mail-in. I requested a ballot online. Yes. I received it at my address. I filled out the ballot on a paper, and I signed the ballot. I put it back in the mail, sent it back to the voting people, let's say, the election committee, and I was actually surprised. I was surprised that I could see online, like, you know, like USPS, how you can track it. They had that. I was surprised by it. I was actually somewhat impressed by that. Okay. So there's a caveat to that, and I'm getting to it right now. So I saw that I requested it. That was step 1. 2, I sent it. They received it, and it's confirmed. Okay. What does that mean? What does confirmed mean? Does that mean it was put in the paper shredder? I know this, I don't want to sound like a nut, right? Okay, so I don't want to get like too far out there, but realistically, back to like being a realist, what would have prevented them from just not counting my vote? I mean, that's the problem with centralization, right?
There was, what state was it that had an election and they found a bunch of votes just sitting in a post office after the election was over?
I laugh, but these are like the most kind of like the most atrocious things, and I find them absurd, and I guess that's kind of why I'm giggling at it. It's very serious, you know. It's a
Mhm.
serious concern, and that's why I'm so interested, like in the implementations and use cases for blockchain.
Mhm.
There's just so many. Like we could talk all day about them, but this is one example. Elections, and currently we have a centralized system.
Mhm.
I don't have a way to see a public ledger of me verifying my vote that I voted for this.
Mhm.
And even if that were the case, there's other stories that we hear of like dead people who voted.
Mhm.
Like, there's all kinds of issues with the current election system when it comes to verification of someone's identity.
And besides that, there's no way you can prove that if I know your signature, that I couldn't have voted for you.
Right? Absolutely. Yeah, you could have received, like, you could have, I don't know, done anything with my ballot.
Mhm.
You could have just signed it and sent it back, and there's a vote for whichever candidate you want, not the one that I want.
Mhm.
So there's issues, and I don't understand how it's not a bigger issue in politics. It's kind of like we've just like take all our trust, just like put it in this system, and just like
Mhm.
it's the side. I think
Yeah.
it's something we need to address,
Well,
right?
yeah, especially with the level of polarization that exists right now. There, if
Extreme.
someone finds like here is a bag of votes from whoever they don't like, there's nothing stopping them getting rid. Yeah, they can just throw it in the river.
And we've seen both. It's horrible that I said that, both sides. That's how bipartisan it is here in the
Yeah,
U.S.
you guys have a.
Right?
Guys can pretend like you don't have a two-party system, but you do.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And so in this bipartisanship, it's crazy because you see one side against the other, and this, and you guys did this, and we did that, and blah blah blah. And but when it all gets down to it, it's the system
Hmm.
that's the problem when it comes specifically voting, right? That is a problem with the system of voting. It has nothing to do with either side. And and what I'm talking about is like you'll see these news headlines of mailman that was in party A threw away party B ballots.
Hmm.
And it was, how could party A do that? It's not about party A or B. It's a problem with the system.
Hmm. You need to. This actually goes all the way back to the start. When you have these layers of bureaucracy in there, it's very easy for more layers of corruption to exist. Where if you find a way to provide a safe and easy way to confirm these identities without having these extra things in between, you can eliminate a lot of these challenges.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think there's already technical implementations that could improve the system.
Hmm.
Kind of in this, a lot of people, I'm speaking kind of as a general population, um, they're not familiar with it. They're
Hmm.
not familiar maybe with the issues or the solution. So that's kind of what sets us back. And there's all this bureaucracy in between that prevents us from reaching that solution.
Yeah.
So I want to be hopeful. I am a realist, so I say let's start taking actionable steps, but I try to be hopeful.
Well, yeah, this has actually happened since the, I guess, a couple of days before the recording. We had a state election in Queensland. I don't care who won. I don't live in Queensland. But we had a state election there, and
That's so true, though. I totally agree with that.
I should care because Queensland's like a big part of our GDP. But there was a lot of mail-in votes there. Mail-in votes are sort of a very mail-in it's way less of a controversial thing in Australia. Like every single election, people do mail-in votes here. It's not like old people do it, young people do it, people who just don't feel like going out, they'll do it because in Australia we also have mandatory voting. That's another problem that we have.
What?
Yeah, you get
What?
sent a fine if you don't vote.
Wow. I want to almost say that I'm a proponent of that. I don't want to be like, I think that's I don't know that that's the best solution, but I think that's pretty cool that there is like this value attributed to someone's vote.
Well, the problem is what you end up having is you have a lot of people who don't care about the election. They just tick a box. They don't care. It's just, they might as well not vote in the first place.
Yeah, they like, yeah, like when you don't care in middle school on your quiz and you just kind of like
But
all over it.
because obviously your name isn't associated with a vote, you just have to go to the voting booth. You don't actually have to vote. You can just close up the paper, put it in the thing.
And you're good.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, that might not be the right incentive.
Yeah, I don't think that. I don't remember what the fine is. I think it's I'm gonna find out. Australia fine.
Yeah, I'd love to see the statistics on the percentage of citizens that vote in Australia versus the percentage that vote in the United States.
It's a $50 fine. It's not like a massive fine. But
Oh.
it's still it's enough to be annoying.
You really want to? Yeah, and it's like you can't even say like screw the system because you still got to pay them their fee, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I'd love to see like the voter turnout between the two country or any given country that incentivizes people with a fine to vote. That would be interesting.
What is the voter turnout? It is pretty high. 91.9% for the Senate, 91% for House of Representatives.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
I know that's significantly higher than the United States. I'm positive.
Let's find out 2016 voter turnout. Voter turnout. It was, drum roll, 55.5%.
Wow. Atrocious.
It was up from 2012 though. That was 54.9.
Wow. Huge gains.
But that's only because it was higher the year before. Or the time before. In 2008, 57.1.
I will be interested, not to get too political here, but like I'll be interested to see the implementations of everything that's been going on with this United States election. See the voter turnout this year to see if there's a larger turnout.
I don't know.
It seems like one of the most heated elections, right? So it seems like people would have more of an incentive.
I don't know. As you said, not to get too political, it seems like a lot of people don't particularly care about Biden. It's like vote against Trump. I don't know how many people are going to be super interested in voting. It's like, oh, okay, I guess I have to vote to make sure Orange Man doesn't win.
Yeah. And I totally agree with that. I think people, that's the problem with the bipartisanship, right? It's like the lesser of two evils, right?
Yes.
So it's very much an issue, and that's a problem I see with the current system. But yeah, I'll be interested to see like how many people just show up this year,
especially with the heavy pushing of the mail-in ballots. How many people will just fill them out because it takes them like 2 minutes to do?
Yeah, absolutely. This was the first year I didn't vote in person. I voted from a mail-in ballot. So,
well, I think it's going to take a while to actually get the results this time around. So we're probably not going to have the results by the time this gets uploaded. But if we do, then I guess we'll find out. But yeah, the recording of this.
Yeah.
What is it? The second for you? Yeah.
It is. It is.
Yes. Okay. When is everything supposed to go down?
3rd tomorrow.
Okay.
So I guess we'll be watching this in hindsight, or watching it as it's happening. Maybe
I'll definitely be checking it out. I watched like an 8-hour live stream when the 2016 election happened, just because I had to see what was going to happen.
You turned it into like a sporting event.
It's the US. Okay, every other country's politics super boring. The US is just I don't know how to describe it. It's a reality TV show. I watched It is. I watched the two debates, and I was like, "What am I watching right now? This is not a presidential debate." Second one was better. I will give them that. It was a debate. First one, though, is like, no, you suck. No, you
It's
suck.
laughable. Yeah, it's like, I think we could have had like better arguments if we would have went to like a kindergarten classroom and like said, "What's your favorite color?" and go. Like that's kind of what it was. It was atrocious.
But blockchain's not going to address that. That's sort of a whole nother problem you got to deal with.
Yep, that's a whole different issue for sure.
But there are certainly other places where proof of person could be useful for sure. For example, in like government welfare programs, like there's actually having some way that isn't directly tied to here is you having a birth certificate, here is you having all of this documentation, which is very easy to lose. And I've met people who they've like either had a house fire or something and they've just lost all of that documentation, and it's very difficult to get all of that back. So if you could have some way to say, like, the government knows that you are you. So if you have a house fire, you can actually get all that documentation back without as much of a difficulty. I don't know how you'd go about doing that, but I think the future does really hold some interesting use cases for proof of person. And I think that this is one of those technologies that will expand for use cases outside of the crypto sphere.
Yeah, and I think creating like an unconditional method of doing so to verify yourself as a person, it can prevent a lot of obviously bureaucracy along the way, but it'll also prevent like in any given system distribution, it'll prevent governments or any given organization from kind of picking and choosing who they want to give any given form of welfare to, right? So we could have like really cool things like public commons and things like this to where you have a stake in something just for being a human being, which I find very interesting.
Do I have any other topics on here? What do I have?
I'm kind of concerned. I always thought, well, I should have known this because I've seen your other podcasts, but
Yes.
kind of always dreamed of a time when you would actually be drinking tea.
I have an empty teacup here.
Okay. You just
Yes?
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
I brushed my teeth like 2 minutes before the podcast started, so.
Oh. Mental hygiene is more important than my dreams.
Well, maybe next time. I've got this this empty bottle of iced coffee as well.
Cool.
Because iced coffee is a very serious problem in Australia. Too many. Lots of people drink it. It's not very good for you. And Farmers Union is shit. Fight me. Anyone from Australia who likes Farmers Union, you're wrong. It's terrible. Anyway, I'm not going to get too much into a Farmers Union argument.
Well, we should do a taste test in the future, and I'll try them both, and I'll tell you the unbiased opinion.
Yeah, Dare is the best iced coffee you will find. Icebreak's okay, I guess. Is iced coffee even I know that iced coffee is super popular in Australia. Is it just as easy to get in the US, or is it just like maybe you'll find some iced coffee somewhere?
No, I think it totally is. Like, this is coming a bit from an outsider's perspective. I'm not much of a coffee drinker. I'll drink it if it's offered to me, but I won't go out of my way to get it. But my girlfriend is a huge fan of coffee, and I think iced coffee is readily available at any given time. I know people that like live off of that.
Because yeah, you go to a supermarket here, and like one big like section of the fridge is just gonna be like 7 or 8 different brands of iced coffee with all of their different flavors.
Yeah, I think that's a bit more impressive than the US.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty extreme.
Yeah, it's sort of a joke that every single person working on like a construction site has like a 2-liter thing of iced coffee, and that's all they drink all day. And it's not just a stereotype. You will go to any construction site, and that is what you will see.
Do you know if the coffee is farmed in Australia or is it from other parts of the world?
I would assume the coffee is from other parts, but we have a very big dairy industry here, so the milk is because Farmers Union, obviously, it's the Farmers Union. That's what it's actually from.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Fun coffee fact for you. The only coffee grown in the U.S. is actually in Hawaii. Be
Okay.
interesting.
Hmm. I yeah, I would never have guessed it'd be Hawaii.
Wouldn't have. Most people wouldn't expect that, right? Like with the large agricultural space in the U.S.,
Mhm.
only place you can actually go find U.S. grown coffee is in Hawaii.
Okay.
More you
Yeah.
know.
Uh, we didn't talk too much about what was the other one you mentioned? Bazaar Network, Foundation.
Yeah, Bazaar Network.
Whatever it was called.
Yeah, or Bazaar Foundation. Yeah, you totally got it right. Um, so that's another one I'm not too familiar with.
Okay.
The way I see that set up, I can't really speak much on that one. But I do want to talk about like the overall space, like with all the. So we talked about a few projects,
Yeah.
right? Like
Okay.
Good
Yeah.
Dollar, Pi Network. We just mentioned Bazaar, Circles. There's quite a few. So it's interesting to see like how they're all trying to solve a similar issue or the same issue. They're all coming from like a different way of doing it. So that's really unique to see in the crypto space when like different projects are trying to solve a problem, but they're all doing it in a different way and kind of seeing which one works. It's cool to see.
I think that also kind of helps with the fact that it's not like the early days of crypto where you had proof of work and that's all that existed. Now you have all of these different, you have all of these legacy projects that exist that have all tried these different things. So now a lot of the newer projects coming along be like, okay, what have they done? What can we take from their experience and maybe make something better? Rather than trying to, like, obviously they're going to try to explore new sorts of ideas, but they don't have to be like, we have no idea what to start from. We can at least have some higher level of baseline than the earlier projects had.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. A lot of these projects, other projects in the crypto space, they're coming from like they had their predecessor. They had like something to go off of. This is a totally not only a new idea of like UBI, but a new totally new process of implementing it. So they're trying to like show people this new idea and show them a solution to performing that idea. So it's cool because like these projects really just hit the ground running and they're trying different ways of doing it, but we'll see who succeeds.
Yeah, we're still in the super early days of things like Good Dollar. As you said, it came out in September with already 20,000 users. One good example of how quickly a crypto project can grow is it actually just went up, I think, just as we started recording this, I released my podcast I did with Brendan Brewer, and towards the end of that, we looked at how much library had grown since the start of the year, and apparently the like average channel size when I joined, or I think average for like top 100 or something, was I think 100 subscribers, maybe. Like if you had above 50, I think you'd be in the top 100. And now I'm at 15,000 on library.
Yeah, so the growth in library is like absolutely astonishing. I totally agree. I'm actually going to go watch that podcast after this because I haven't seen it yet. Yeah, that's something I'm very interested in, like the growth of these decentralized platforms, because as most people know, there's always a network effect with any social media platform. Somebody I really like talking to about this stuff is Scott Cunningham. I don't know if you've heard of him.
No,
Scott
I brought him on the podcast before.
I should have known that. I obviously haven't seen every podcast. Now I got 2 podcasts to go back and watch. So Yeah, Scott, like he's obviously on like every single
Mhm.
crypto social platform ever. Like this guy's impressive, right? So it's cool to see the network effect though, because like as you know, when you start on these new social platforms, it really takes time to like get the ball rolling, right?
Yes.
And I think we're starting to see that increase in speed and growth with library as recently as like the past few months. So it's really interesting to see. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on the whole library TV versus Odyssey. What are your
That's
thoughts on that?
actually the last topic I had on my list. Because I did want to see what you thought
Awesome.
about Odyssey as well. Personally, I
I,
I like
I was just
Odyssey.
gonna say, I promise we're not sharing the show notes.
No, we just happen to go that direction.
Yeah,
That's I really should just send the show notes to whoever the guest is anyway, just to make it easy.
it's okay.
But
We've done well. We've done well. Telepathy.
yes. I think what's going to happen down the line is library TV is probably going to shift more towards me being like a development platform. So this is where they're going to test out new features and then roll them out to Odyssey, because I think the Odyssey is something that library is desperately, desperately needed. It's that thing where you have the friendlier entry point, and it's the thing where they can actually bring in advertisers, because I've said this for a long time about library, that you once the rewards pool ends, there's no reason to use library anymore. Like, if I have no rewards pool, why don't I use BitChute, or why don't I use PeerTube, or why don't I use anything else? The rewards pool is the reason why library is as big as it is, and that's something that needs to be addressed, and Odyssey provides that opportunity to, if they need to. This is something that a lot of people are not going to like. If they need to, there's going to be content that needs to be blocked on Odyssey. Like, maybe the conspiracy content has to get blocked to bring in advertisers. Maybe other content needs to get blocked because there's a lot of advertisers who don't want anything to do with that. Even though, for example, like, I don't think gun content is one that doesn't make any sense. YouTube's just bad at dealing with ad contracts, because I can guarantee that like Colt or Remington will be perfectly happy advertising on gun content. YouTube just doesn't want to make those contracts. But if they have to, there might be certain types of content that does have to get filtered out of the Odyssey app, but then that can still exist on the desktop app, and hopefully Library TV doesn't just become a dev platform, but I think it may. I don't have any inside information about that, but that's how I feel it's going to go.
I totally agree with you on the things you just mentioned, specifically, library TV being like a dev platform. I agree with that. I can't speak too much on that because I'm not really too technical or a developer, but I definitely see it as that first stepping stone. Like, even as a content creator myself, like, I see it becoming, for the people that want to be a little bit more technical and a little bit more in depth with things, that provides a platform to do so, right? Then also, I totally agree with what you said on the advertising, right? Or just an incentive structure. Something I think libraries really, especially in the past few months, they've noticed, hey, we have to get this incentive structure down, and we got to get it done like now. We gotta implement it, because can't do it when we run out of funding. You got to do it now. So it's interesting to see, like, they've made a few posts already talking about the different reward structures that they're considering, and they recently implemented a new one. And so as a creator, you have to have that incentive to continue creating content. And some people might say, oh, well, people will still, yeah, there will still be creators, but to be competitive in the space as a platform, there needs to be an incentive.
Yep. Because it would be different if it was still 2006 and no one was getting paid on YouTube. But that's not the time we're in now. There are people who are running multi-million-dollar businesses making videos on YouTube. You can't just say, we're just not going to pay you. Like, okay, well, I'm just not going to use your platform then.
Yeah, and it's like, that was such a differentiator for somebody like me who doesn't have a significant following on YouTube, I could literally step from the YouTube realm into the library realm, and I could literally from day one be making revenue on library, which is awesome. That's so cool. That's a great thing. That's cool for all content creators in general, that they don't have to rely on this centralized source. But it's cool specifically for smaller content creators that don't have to go through this like rite of passage to start making money. So, but they really have to get that structure down as far as distributing rewards.
Yeah, the system that it's in right now, I think I'm making like 0.76 per creator tip or something like that. It's
Same.
it was good that day it broke and went up to like 7. That was nice. They shut the rewards off very quickly after that happened.
It's like a fire hose of rewards coming out, and they're like, "Oh no, turn it off."
But even at the state that it's at right now, because they've said they want to kind of match YouTube or be a little bit above YouTube, it's still a little bit too high, like a double too high. But the reason why it still it seems like it's good right now is because the views you get on library are still considerably lower. Like on my regular videos, I get about 1,000, 1,500 on YouTube and about 200 to 300 over on library. So the views are considerably less. So they're handing out far less. But if, say, suddenly library did start getting those same level of view counts, it would be a very different story. And hopefully they sort out more long-term stuff by then. But the growth is getting faster. So, because I've been noticing big creators talking about coming over to library.
Yeah, and I'll give them props. Like, while they do need to solve certain things like features for creators and this whole content reward system, I will give them props on the user side of things, or the viewer, I should say.
Yes, since they
the
brought
viewer side of things, they've really been doing well.
Since they brought in Julian, there has been a lot of positive changes on that side.
Yeah, and it's like we're seeing more and more people coming to the platform in general, whether it's Odyssey or library or the desktop app. But we're seeing like this growth of users that they don't even know that it's a blockchain project. Like they're just there to watch videos and either, learn or be entertained or whatever it may be. But they're not even concerned with the blockchain aspect of it, which is great. Like that's how it should be. That's how a project gets adoption.
Yes.
The user can come in, like I was mentioning earlier with Good Dollar, when a user can come in and just feel comfortable with the application and use it and not be concerned with the technical aspects.
Well, you don't need to be worried about the crypto people joining. The crypto people are going to join any crypto platform. And that's what it was like when I joined library. Like, library was only just starting to branch out into like the Linux sphere. So my people were starting to join, and so it made sense for me to go over. But that's about as far as it went at that point, because it was too crypto-y. Odyssey's gone a bit too far in the other direction by getting rid of supports, but they're bringing them back in a different form.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen that change even in the relatively short time I've been a part of library. I'd say since late last year. Over the past year, let's say, I remember when I first joined library, or first discovered library in like November of last year. I just went on there and I just saw a whole which for me was great, crypto, right? But I thought anybody that comes here from YouTube is going to be like, oh, this is a crypto YouTube. That's what they're going to think.
Sorry, there was also
all the content.
Is
crypto.
It was crypto and conspiracy. That's what you had.
Yeah. Crypto and conspiracy. That's what it was. It was like a nice sandwich of the two. And so for an outsider that's used to going to YouTube just to watch like any given entertaining content, we go to library and they were just like, what is this? And I saw firsthand experience of like friends that I've recommended to library, and they're like, oh, I just went on there and saw a bunch of conspiracy content. Like Odyssey, and like you said, since they brought on Julian to the team, like we've seen a major change as far as like user adoption and just opening up to people like the broader public.
Yeah. I've noticed recently a lot of the like the meme channels starting to join library now, which is going to start bringing people over, and a lot of gaming channels are starting to join as well, like actually big gaming channels, and some Twitch people I know about, like Epos Vox is here now, which is a pretty big gain. But I've been noticing a lot of that. We've been expanding out into these larger spheres. I think I said this to Brendan. The point where library needs to be ready is when like the Reddit commentary channels start to join, because those channels have millions of subscribers, and if they start talking about it, like the growth is going to go from this to like this, and
and
yeah,
you got to be ready. They have to be ready.
They definitely do.
It'll be interesting to see. Like, I mean, I've already seen crazy growth over the past year. Like I've said, more people just checking out the platform and being interested, whether it was for crypto or not. It's really cool to see the adoption and more people coming. But yeah, I hope they're ready, because, you know, one of these days it's just going to be like a wave, an influx of users, which if they haven't already seen that.
Yeah, I hope they're ready. I'm not super hopeful, but I hope. I hope that I'm hoping.
Me too. I try to be a realist, like I said, but I am hopeful. I think it's a great community. Like, I don't think I would have ever experienced something like this on YouTube, or it just wouldn't have been as common.
Yeah,
it could have happened, but it's a great community. And I've seen the growth like over the past year of like new members coming in and actually like having some kind of community discussion that's not just like spam YouTube comments.
yeah.
There are fair share of spam library comments, don't get me wrong, but it is cool to see like the knit community here.
Yeah, that is one of the interesting things about library, because it's a bit like there's a lot of people here, but it's still very, very small. Like if I see people commenting around, I recognize the same names in a lot of places, because you have a lot of active people. When the active people go between different channels, it's like you start recognizing faces.
Absolutely, yeah. And you start like kind of developing friendships and relationships with people in the community, which just with the huge, that's like a benefit that library has, and I think they should use it to their advantage, the whole community aspect. So
the other nice thing about that is that even though there are some really big channels on library, the ones that started on library seem to be very, very much more down to earth, because most of these people who grew just grew out of nowhere. Like, for example, Crypto Hustler, when I brought him on, at the time, I think his channel size was like 4 or 5 times mine. And if I tried to do that on YouTube, most people probably wouldn't even give you the time of day.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Oh, it's an interesting aspect of the community, like just the conversations and relationships you can have with people. You know, maybe that'll change in the future. Who knows? Maybe as like the population, I mean, that's a given, right? More people and it's less communal. But as of right now, it's like it's a great place to be as a content creator.
Yeah, this does feel a lot like, because I joined YouTube, not on the channel I'm on right now, but I joined YouTube on one of my earlier accounts. 2006, I reckon? 2007? Yeah. So I've been there since the start. And yeah, it does, there's definitely a lot more of the communal aspect there, where, hey, the biggest channel is the library channel. I don't count that one. The biggest channel really is like 50,000 subs, which I guess would be more like 2009, 2010 YouTube, but it's way smaller than it is now. Like, for example, I don't even know how like PewDiePie and how much like T-Series and stuff has now. Like multiple like 100 million? I don't know. Too many.
Yeah.
Like that's an unimaginable number. But on library, like, yeah, it's just a nice small thing. I like it being small, but I do want to see it grow, obviously.
Yeah, obviously As a viewer, one thing I love about library, right, is that I can literally follow channels and I can see their content and know that I'm going to see their content in my feed. That is my favorite thing. My favorite thing, because I've subscribed to people on YouTube and I'm like, wow, I really like this channel. And then I never see their content again, even though they're posting.
This is one thing that's annoying me about Odyssey, or annoying me about the notification system. Don't give me notifications when someone uploads. I can see the uploads. Your sub box works.
Right here.
Like, I'm like, oh, I have all these notifications. I scroll through it and it's like 20 people uploaded the video. Like, can I just disable it? You can disable the email notifications about it, but you can't disable the in-app notifications.
You just get like, if 20 of the people channels you're following in a day, you just get like, oh wow, a bunch of people like commented on my videos, and then you click the notification. It's just like all these people that uploaded.
Yeah, I'm looking at it right now. So we have a video from HexDSL, a comment from Scammer Revolt. Hey, look, a comment. An upload from the Quartering, from Lewis Rossman from the Quartering, from Acad Daily. Whalebot comment. Okay, there's a comment there. The Quartering, the Quartering, the Quartering, the Quartering. Like, I don't need to see the uploads. Especially when there's some people I watch who upload like 6 or 7 videos in a day.
Yeah, it's insane. Yeah, it's like you follow a few of those people and like your notifications just get so cluttered. So maybe library will see this and
I'll make an issue about it on the GitHub if there isn't already one.
Absolutely. It's cool. I mean, I guess we can't complain too much because we finally got notifications.
Well,
right?
yeah, that's a good thing. Notifications are here. I've waited an entire year for these, and before the videos were there, it was amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, with anything, like it'll be improved over time. I guess that's the benefit of it being a centralized system, right? They can make tweaks. But I think just feedback and things from content creators over time, they'll make improvements. Yeah. I've seen it improve a lot. I got to give them credit. Over the past year, I've seen quite a few improvements, and they can just keep up at this pace and keep accounting for certain issues. I'm very hopeful.
I'm very excited to see what the roadmap for 2021 is going to be.
Me too.
Because I went over the 2020 roadmap with Brendan, and they actually hit most of the things. I think the only thing that they haven't hit was like something to do with advertising and the iOS app.
The iOS app, I was going to say, but yeah, fine with that.
I think they've made some progress on it, but we don't have a working iOS app at this point.
Yeah. I mean, just having the desktop app, I really enjoy using that. What do you prefer, the desktop app or the website?
I use desktop just because it's easier for me to upload.
Yeah, as a content creator, it's much easier to use and upload. As a viewer, I think Odyssey is probably going to be what a lot of people want to see.
Well, the apps are very important, and they are redoing the Library TV app to be like an Odyssey app. But the mobile apps are incredibly important because that's where most people are watching videos now.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, there's a lot of people watching videos on mobile, and so mobile app's going to be, if and when it gets released, I think it'll be another huge growth spurt for library. So I'm excited to see that.
But I don't expect it to affect the coin price, though. The coin price is... yeah.
Hey, it's a stable coin, right?
yeah, we'll go with that. It's a stable coin now. One day, Crypto Lambo, one day.
So, I gotta ask you, are you involved in any other decentralized video platforms besides library?
I upload to others. I don't get involved in the community. I use I have everything synced over to BitTube just because I literally just give them my YouTube URL and it just syncs over. And BitChute claims they're going to eventually decentralize one day, but What? Maybe.
Uh,
No, they're not. They're having a lot of struggles right now. Yeah. Their video uploader hasn't been working properly for the past couple of weeks, and there's been issues with funding and some other stuff. I don't, because BitChute is completely community funded. But yeah, besides that, no, I'm not uploading anything right now. The other stuff I'm using is centralized. I sync everything over to Facebook and Dailymotion because there's a service I use called YouTube Video Sync or something. I don't remember what it's called.
To sync to multiple platforms?
Yeah, I just pay like $60 or $70 a year and it just uploads them.
You're like, you see Dailymotion on there, you're like, why not? I'm paying for it.
Might as well. I think I could upload to Vimeo as well, but I don't have a Vimeo.
You better make one.
I'm better. Gotta expand out as much as possible. Now I think I have like zero. No, I have one follower on Facebook. I don't use Facebook for anything else besides syncing the videos.
I mean, that's the whole thing I was mentioning earlier, like with the whole network effect. It's like, I'm on other social media platforms like Twitter, right? Recently, I've been doing some tweets and stuff, but primarily I only post content to Library. So it's a little bit difficult for me as a content creator to bring people into like a new platform.
Yeah.
So as Library grows, it's beneficial.
Yeah, that's why I recommend people staying on YouTube for now, because as I mentioned earlier with Good Dollar and the marketplace, bringing people over to this new platform, you can't really do if they don't know about it.
Exactly. If they've never heard of it and it's like difficult to move over there, not going to do it. It's just like, it's not simple enough. So I totally agree with you on that one.
I do understand why people want to make channels and start on Library. Like, if you're a new creator, Library is a great place to start. Yeah. Like, you're going to get paid from the start. You're probably going to grow quicker in most cases.
Definitely.
Hey, I have a new
comment.
That's
congrats.
Oh,
do you use Odyssey now to interact? Do you still use the desktop app? There we go.
I have notifications on the desktop app now, so I mainly use the desktop app. I use Odyssey mainly to post, like, get links to videos, which I should update my... Here's something fun. I actually have a script that converts between the different formats of library links. So I should just add the Odyssey version into that.
Should.
Yeah, mainly I just use Odyssey for... When I need to do demonstrations and show someone what, like, library is, I'll show Odyssey. Or, like, if I pull it up during a podcast, for example, I show Odyssey then. Mainly, though, I was using it for notifications, so they weren't in the desktop app. Now that they are, I use that.
You said you get more views on YouTube than Library, right?
Yes, considerably.
Do you see more engagement on YouTube or Library?
Right now I see more engagement on YouTube. But when comments first improved, I would say it was actually fairly similar between the two. It's slowed down a bit now. I'm not really sure why. But yeah, for a while there, I was getting lots of comments on Library.
Yeah, definitely. It's gonna be cool to see. Like, I'm really excited to see like some of these more mainstream content creators coming from YouTube, like bringing people that just never would have imagined using Library. Now, like, you're gonna see these links or these options to go try out another platform, and they might just give it a shot. So that'll be cool.
All right, guys.
I think that's them telling me.
Yeah, like one example I saw recently was I don't know if you know who he is. Computing Forever. He's a mainly a politics channel now. He recently joined Library. He's got close to 500k subscribers on YouTube. So seeing bigger creators like that joining is crazy. As I said, Epos Vox earlier, he joined a while back, and yeah, because just having those people do a video and mention that Library exists sort of drives a lot of traffic to the platform.
And I think that's secretly like one of the biggest benefits to bringing people from YouTube to library.
Mm-hmm.
Having these creators actually link them to library from YouTube
Yeah.
is a huge benefit for library.
Because okay. I just looked at one of the top comments on this video, and it's from another channel that has 300,000 subscribers, and he's like, "Odyssey actually looks good." So maybe that person will then join it. And that's the other thing you get when these big creators talk about a platform like this. It's very likely that a lot of other big creators are following them as well.
I think it's going to be also like super interesting to see like dynamic of some of these creators coming to library or Odyssey, like the whole library platform, and like start interacting with the blockchain,
Mm-hmm.
like with the whole idea of like library credits. It's going to be so cool to see like big time creators interacting with library credits and staking and things like this.
Well, we already had for a long time now. EEV Blog has been a big proponent of library. I don't know if you know who he is. Yeah. He's
Yep.
Anyone who doesn't, he's he runs an electronics channel in.
Quick side note. I think he lives in Austin, Texas, where I'm at right now.
EEV
Shout
Blog.
out to him. Is that wrong?
No, that's a different person. No,
wrong?
EEV Blog lives in Sydney.
Okay, I totally have seen EEV Blog, so I will, because he's one of the first people I saw in library.
Mm-hmm.
You know who I'm thinking of?
Chris Titus.
Chris Titus Tech.
Yes, you are.
Is that right?
Yes, you are. I saw the tweet you made to
but
Chris.
I have seen EEV Blog.
Yes.
I have seen EEV Blog.
Yeah, no, EV Blog's electronics channel that operates in Sydney, and he's been a big proponent of library for a while now. But he's also on every other platform as well. He's one of those people who just, if it exists and someone tells him about it, he will be there.
He's there. Him and Scott would be like best friends.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, Styx, Hex, and Hammer is also just as bad with that.
On every platform?
Yes. Like, he can have 10 users, he'll probably be there.
Yep. Why not? I mean, for some people, they see it as why not, right?
Yeah.
I get cluttered. Like, my mind gets cluttered when I'm on multiple platforms.
No, that's fair. It's very... that's one of the things that is nice about library, though. The fact that if you just upload to YouTube, you can just upload to library without thinking about it.
Yeah, no problem. Like, with the whole sync process, that's like one of the biggest benefits for some YouTube creators. They could easily sync their channel.
Yeah. Because I get that some people are very busy and can't really find the time to actually go and upload to two different platforms. But if you can make that process as easy as possible, hey, it might encourage some more people to try it out.
Library's gonna like take this and turn it into like a library marketing commercial. You just watch. Maybe like take snippets of like all the good things we've said. And be like, wow, library is an awesome platform. Check it out.
Hey, if they want to do that, they have my email. They can hit me up.
Why not?
I'm almost out of water.
Was that water?
Yeah, it's
iced coffee.
No, it's really hot today. It's the middle of summer right now. I guess it's the start of summer, whatever. Let's find out the exact temperature. I'm gonna say it's probably like 32 degrees Celsius, maybe. It's 34. Let's put that into freedom units. 34 C2F. That is
92.
92?
I guessed.
Oh, okay. I thought you...
Sorry.
Wow, that was really close. 93.
Oh, sweet. Yeah, 93. I think it was 60 in freedom units. It was 68 here today, so
68.
starting to cool down.
Oh, that's nice. Yeah, it's been pretty cold here lately because winter just decided not to end. But it's finally starting to warm up. We're finally getting to how it should be over Australian Christmas. Gotta get those 40-degree days over Christmas.
Why not? Did it ever snow anywhere in Australia?
Actually, yes. During winter, there's a couple of there's actually a couple of ski resorts, like a couple of mountains that are high enough where it actually snows.
I did not know that. That is super cool.
Most people don't. Yeah, it's let's see if we can find one. What's going to come up if I search for Australia ski resort? Perisher Ski Resort. That is located in Monaro. Where is Monaro? I should know that. That is
okay.
New South Wales. No, not the car Monaro. Yeah, New South Wales, it snows. And also, I think it might snow a bit in Victoria as well, but my state, no, it doesn't. Because my state's a bit closer to the desert side.
So, said where are you in Australia?
I'm in South Australia.
Okay. Do you ever go surfing on the coast or no?
I can barely swim.
Well, guess what? I have never been to Australia. I really want to visit. So, thing opens back up.
Ooh, cutting out.
Froze. Okay, you're back. All right. When everything opens back up, we gotta go surfing. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta make that promise.
Well, I can go surfing now. My state's basically opened back up.
Have you been before?
No, I haven't.
Well, let's go. It'll be your first time. Come to Australia for the first time, and then you'll surf for the first time.
Mm-hmm. That's gonna end very badly. I guarantee it.
Probably so.
Yeah. I'll be that weird dude who wears a life jacket on his surfboard.
It's fine. Totally cool. Have your cold brew iced coffee.
Yep.
Ready to go. Like a 2 liter and be chugging it.
Use the 2 liters as like floaties.
Yeah, you'll be wired on coffee. Have your little floaties ready to go.
Sadly, the more I drink,
fun.
the more I sink. So that's a problem.
That's pretty good rhyme. That sounds like it could be a song.
That's the extent of my my rhyming ability.
It's pretty impressive. Pretty impressive.
Definitely, yep. Some basic, I just open up the your thesaurus. Yep, those words are similar. Yeah, that'll work. Yeah, I think that it's been about 2.5 hours now. I think that's probably a good place to end it, because we went over most of what I want to talk about on UBI, unless there was anything else you wanted to say about it that we didn't cover.
Oh, I mean, I think we had a good overview of what UBI is with governments, and then crypto UBI and the different projects in the space right now. Yeah, if anybody's watching that's interested in UBI, obviously you can just Google it and find more about it. And it's an interesting concept. And there's obviously been, or not obviously, but there has been a lot of thought leaders throughout history that have supported an idea like UBI. Mm-hmm. And now with the advancement of technology and blockchain systems, it would be really cool to be able to implement that.
Yeah, for sure. Okay. Well, usually how I end off the podcast is I ask the guests to give me a channel that they've been watching recently they want to just give some attention to. Just shout out to anyone, and I'll bring them up on the screen.
Oh man, you know, I was gonna shout out Scott C Business because I didn't know that he had been on the podcast before.
Hey, we can bring up Scott. He's got a great channel.
Why not? Yeah, give him another shot, man. That guy deserves 2 shout outs.
See if we can find his channel. It's just Scott C Business, isn't it?
Yeah.
Scott C Business. Here we go. Yeah. He's 25,000 subscribers on Lightbrew now. Wow.
Yeah.
He mainly does like investing videos, talking about like how to invest, talking about his crypto portfolio. He did one that annoyed a lot of people where he talked about some potential scammy projects. The comments of that were full of supporters of one of the projects being like, no, this is not a scam.
Yeah. That's when you know, I mean, that's great content, right? Yeah, he also does a lot of stuff on like blockchain social media platforms. So
yeah,
That's cool to see all the different social media platforms that he's on. I could never handle that, but he has a lot of interesting content. So I thought I'd give him a shout out.
He also has his own podcast where it's much more structured than I do. Mine's just sort of like hanging out, really.
Yeah.
But yeah, I recommend going and checking out some of those because he's had some really interesting guests on in the past.
Yeah, definitely. He's had a lot of cool guests. He's talked to like people that are in charge of these social media platforms. So talk to members of the team. And his content's very interesting. He's actually the reason I wanted to give him a shout out is because he is the person on YouTube when I was watching YouTube that I actually got me over here onto the library platform. So I definitely think he deserves that shout out.
Yeah, that's fair. As for me, who am I gonna mention today? I'm gonna say, yeah, I brought him on since I brought him talking about people I brought on the podcast. Go check out The Digital Life. He does. I'll send you the link to his channel.
The Digital Life.
The Digital Life. Where did it open?
You check it out.
Oh, it's open here. Basically, he does videos about like how to become a IT professional. So that's his main focus. Like, he's done videos talking about like working in IT support, how to set up some of the things you're actually going to need to know to actually be an IT professional. So anyone who thinks that sounds kind of interesting, I recommend checking it out. I brought him on the podcast very recently, and I think that was a really fun episode. So if you want to see more from him, that also works as well. And he's the sort of person who also likes to very, very heavily experiment with the sort of content he makes as well.
Awesome.
Yeah, so go check him out. And he's only been doing it for 7 months.
Yeah, I respect people like that like try to change up their content and try different things. So I'm interested to check his channel out.
Cool. So where can people find you?
So I will say I'm not going to promote any social media of mine because I'm actually going to make an upcoming video soon if you're interested of why I'm not on the other social media platforms. But basically on library, I have TravCrypto, which is kind of like me talking about blockchain and cryptocurrencies and things like this. So you can find me at TravCrypto. And then I have another channel that I do with my girlfriend where we create travel vlogs and videos of us just traveling and we do fun stuff. So that's called Trav Travels, the Z. I remember the Z. Trav Travels with an S was taken on YouTube. That was heartbreaking.
Too bad.
So, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's it.
That's it. Awesome.
Cool.
Before we end it off, I would like to say thank you to my supporters. So a special thank you to Chris, Joachim, Donald, Corbinian, Andre, Craig, Nathan, Monstazar, Chicobento, Joseph Pitty, Road, Tony, Brennan, John, Marek, Mikhail, Nate, Nefat, Potees, and Silva. If you want to go support my work, yeah, there's 21 people on that list now. It's pretty crazy. And a couple of those people donate stupid amounts of money. Joachim, for example, he gives me $64 a month. Why? I've asked him about. I've spoken to him about it before. He's given me his reason. I don't accept his reason. It doesn't make any sense. But yeah, that's awesome. So all of these people are awesome.
Super cool.
If you want to go find my work, then my main channel is available on Library, Odyssey, and BitChute, things like that. This podcast is available as an audio release as well as the video release. The audio release, literally anywhere you can find podcasts, you'll find it. And the video release is on Library and YouTube. Yeah, besides that, I think that's pretty much everything. I'll give you the closing word. What do you want to say?
I guess thanks so much for having me on the show. And yeah, I think as with any concept that you come across, it's always worthwhile to, even if it's a concept you've never heard of, check it out. Do your own research. See if it's something that you could support and get behind. And you never know, you might be interested. So always be willing to check out new stuff.
I would say that, yeah, it's completely fair. Yeah, anyone who is interested in Good Dollar, I'll leave links to the projects we talked about today as well. So anyone who wants to go check them out, there'll be links down there and links to the Good Dollar marketplace as well. So yeah, go check it out, see if you like it.
Thanks.